All right, so I want to give you guys a reminder on how the IMM brushes work because they might be useful for you in your final project. So if you recall, you have to have something in your scene to attach them to, okay? It can be anything. It doesn't really, it doesn't matter. And a lot of times what you're going to do is just delete that thing when you are done with the actual, putting these things on it. And luckily, it creates a separate polygroup for that, so it's real easy to isolate and delete hidden. Remember with the Control and Shift click trick. Okay, so I'm just going to go and find one of these guys just to kind of remind you what they do. And let's just go with the, I don't know, IMM model kits. Okay, so you remember you see them up here. You can also hit the M key and it'll bring up a menu like this that you can, pick, and you can isolate them. Like if I hit the H key here, it's only going to show me the holds on this. Okay. Again, you can kind of go either way you want to go with that kind of thing. Okay. So anyway, if I put something in here, I don't know, smoke one here, and I just click and drag. Okay. As I drag larger, this thing is going to get bigger. Okay. And as soon as I let go, it's going to mask the sphere. Okay. Like so. What that allows you to do then is use the gizmo here to put this where you want it. You can rescale it. Okay. You can move it around. Do anything you like with it, like so. Okay. And if you go back to draw mode, there it is. And then you can draw, another one in. And as soon as you draw something else in, like I'll do a cone here and let go, that's going to be masked too. So each one isolates every time you draw another thing. Okay. And as you may or may not remember, that's how that works. Okay, so these things can be really useful because there are some just really wacky ones in here, like this Toon one, has weird elf feet, things like that. There's a human one too, where you have, heads and hands and faces and stuff like that. Lots of things. Here's the body parts one. Okay, if I hit M, you can see what's in here. Okay, lips. Just put some lips in here. Okay, and then if you did want to conform that, you just hit the W key and you can squeeze that into your surface more. Yeah, like so, push it in. That kind of thing. Anyway, kind of silly, but there it is. Okay, go back to draw. So when you're done, you want to get rid of the shape that these things are sitting on. Okay, you unmask everything. So Control drag out here like this. Turn on polyframe. That's Shift F. You can also click right here. See how each of these is a different color. So that means that these are all independently. You can isolate them independent of each other. Okay, so you hold on Control Shift, and what I want to do is make the sphere disappear. Okay, so I click once. That isolates the sphere. If I click again, it brings everything else back and gets rid of the visibility of the sphere. So it didn't really make anything go away yet. It's hidden, okay? So I've got to go to the geometry menu here, choose modify topology, and then delete hidden. And that will actually make that thing go away, like so, okay? And then these guys, you're free to do whatever you want with. They're all going to be on one subtool here. Okay, so of course you can duplicate this and then delete extra stuff that you want. And the kind of nice thing too is that every tool you use in here is going to come in by default with the same polygroup. So you can isolate, things, but keep all those guys together. So if I just duplicated this and wanted to keep these and keep the other stuff too, I could have just done that per subtool here and get rid of the things that I don't want. Okay. All right, I'm just going to pop back here to where we were in my undo history, turn off polyframe so you can see this again. Okay, so this is the fun part. The things that I don't think I mentioned before is the IMM brush tools. Okay, so in here you're going to see IMM, not brush, IMM curves, like this. Okay, IMM curve. And what this is, if I hit M here, let's see what these are. Okay, so I've got a bunch of different things here. Okay, you can kind of see them up here as well. So this works a little bit differently. This actually is using a curve to draw these guys and putting them in a, kind of conforming them in a way that they're connecting each of these pieces to itself. Okay, so for instance, this little vine here, I'm going to scale this down a bit. If I drag a curve like this, I get this. Okay, and I don't think I showed you this before. I showed you the curved tube, and it follows the same kind of a principle. So if you hover over this, you'll see this blue icon show up. What that means is at that point you can then edit this and drag this thing around, and I'll show you more about that in a second. When you see a little red line at the beginning of it, if I can find it there, you can extend the curve. Okay, kind of hard to find sometimes. The little blue thing here is independent of this size shape. Okay, so if I move away from the object or the curve and hit S and drag this down, okay, and then click on this, that changes the entire size of the curve brush that I'm using at the moment. Okay, like that. If I'm on this blue icon, I can also hold down S and change the size of this. Okay, and what that does is it allows me to edit in a larger area here and pull this thing around like that. And I'm going to show you some tricks with that in a second as well. Okay, so getting back to wherever that little red line is, it's hard to find sometimes. It just sort of pops up. There's some place, and see, I'm actually just dragging this along at that point. Can't find the red thing. Well, it does show up there eventually, trust me. And it probably has to do with the large brush size I'm using or something like that. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about that. What is cool, though, and again, you can make this bigger by just making this larger, clicking on this, okay? So those things are independent of each other. All right, so what is nice here is that you can take this thing, and if you go to the stroke menu up here and go to curve, you're going to see some things up here, okay? You can lock the start of your curve or the end, and that way you can drag it and it's going to stick at either end, okay? So as you drag that thing along, that's going to happen, okay? So that's useful. You have a couple of things here, elastic and liquid, and those essentially add or remove points as you drag. So if I click elastic here and drag this, you'll see how this thing is going to be a little more useful in terms of pulling that around as opposed to liquid here, like this, and I can push this back, and you'll see how that is actually going to start removing points on that curve. Okay, like so. Okay, another nice thing you can do here is if you just click, and this is really important, if I hold on Control and I'm going to mask, and I don't really want to mask here, but if I just click on the curve, don't move it, then hold down Control, I can rotate the actual geometry here. Okay, so click, oops, see, even I'm having trouble, click with the mouse, hold on Control and drag, and you can rotate how that thing is going to react, and sometimes they do get a little crazy. Okay, and another thing you can do there is you can smooth the curve. So sometimes these things just get all bent out of shape, especially if you're using a small draw size here. You can kind of kink that thing a little too much, and it starts to look funny, okay, because of where the curves are. Although that doesn't actually look too bad, shocking. Okay, so what you can do with this then, I'm just going to make my draw size a little bigger. Instead of holding down Control, I'm going to click on my curve and hold Shift. And that is going to smooth the curve wherever I am on top of that. And I've got to make sure I see the blue thing at that point, the blue icon here. Okay, click, hold Shift, and that's smoothing the curve. So if you find that getting too kinked in that part, in any particular part, you can control that by smoothing the curve. Okay, and that's a really powerful thing, because the biggest complaint with these things is that they get out of control. They just get kind of wacky. And sometimes you just need to be able to, adjust that, the smoothness of that. The other thing when you're drawing these is normally you have lazy mouse on when you are working on just in ZBrush in general. If you turn that off and draw these curves, you will find that it's going to be a little easier to control the shape. Okay, because the lazy mouse, what that does is it's kind of smooths as it goes, but your mouse is actually lagging behind where the icon of it is, so it's kind of smoothing as it goes. So you end up with some kind of funky things going on. Okay, see this little red line that just showed up here? I'll show you how you can extend that now. Okay, see how that extends as it goes? Okay, and if I get a nice big, big brush here like this, and click and hold down control. Whoops, I'm clicking and holding down control. I can turn that, twist that, hold down shift, smooth. Okay, so again, really useful. You've got things like these wires that you can use instead. You can even change this from one thing to another just by clicking on it. You kind of see here how I turned that as this thing started going. Okay, oops. Undo my mask. Again, click with the mouse, then hold down control, and you can spin the geometry at that point. Okay, like so. Oops. On the surface here, it's going to be a little weird because it's trying to stick to the surface. Okay. Bracelets, necklaces, all sorts of things you can create with this. That's really, really, useful. Maybe not so much for your creature project, but for other things, it might be, quite interesting, quite useful. Okay. I'll show you some more of these in a second. I'm going to pause this, import those. Okay, I want to show you there are some additional ones in the light box. So if you go to brush, you'll find different things in here that have some of those curve brushes in them. Also these IMM brushes. Okay, so if I take a look at like this feather brush, for instance, and we'll zoom in here a little bit. Oops. Click OK. There we go. Okay, so same kind of deal here. Depending on how you click with this, you can get this sort of a feathery looking shape on here. Okay, and again, I'd probably want to smooth some of this in different areas. Okay, after the fact. And these, as I said before, if I clear my mask here and turn on polyframe, you'll see these guys come in together, which allows me to zap that guy if I want to. Okay, I'll undo back here, show you some of these other ones. Go to Lightbox again. And I gave you guys a link to the mesh repository on ZBrush Central. You can also Google, these things. They're all over the web. Find another one here. I've gathered a bunch of them. I got a bunch from students and other people. So there's some nice ones in here that just to kind of show you, again, some different things you can do with this. There's some nice chain ones. Find a couple here. Celtic knots, insert other stuff. All sorts of interesting things here. I don't know where my chains went. Let me show you this instead. Some stitch ones that are, chains, here we go. Chains and tangles, okay. Again, different things here. That kind of a, again, more like a bracelet sort of a look. Anyway, you can play around with those as you, discover them and find out, what you want to do with them. But I did want to show you another thing that you can do with all of these guys. And I want to show you on this braid brush. Okay. So if I draw a braid here like this, okay, this is what I get. Okay, looks okay, right? And again, these things look kind of rough coming in. You can do the same thing you would do in any other part of ZBrush. And once you accept them, you can divide them and smooth them. Okay, so super easy to do that after the fact. But you'll see this is tapering from the beginning to the end here, like this. You can control that. Okay, so again, if you go to the stroke menu and go to curve, and then curve, not curve functions, it's curve modifiers. Okay, you're going to see this little thing. It's really hard to see at first. It's just this little curve fall off here. Okay, if you click on that, and you'll see this all over in ZBrush, you get a graph. And this is essentially the profile of this. Okay, so it's starting tiny and getting bigger as it goes. Okay, so if I take this and I click on this, you can add points to this. Okay, and drag them around to change the profile of the actual curve that you draw. Okay, so if I make something like this with this sort of a radius, and then draw another one here, watch the difference. Okay, starting thin, getting fatter, and then going back down to thin. Okay, and I can modify this, and I'm going to get the same effect over with a smaller number of, or a larger number of components, but a smaller shape. Okay, smaller sizes. So this is a really, this is an extremely, potent tool, even for things like the strap brush in ZBrush. I can find that one. It's here somewhere. Curve strap. This guy. Okay, back. Sorry, I had a glitch in my recording stuff. So I wanted to show you the strap brush. Okay, which wants to cling to surfaces like this. Okay, so I get this kind of nice flat shape going on, and again, if I click on this and hold shift, I can smooth that out nice and pretty like that. But I can do the same thing with this guy as I did with the braid, which is go ahead and change this to size, and again, I'm in these stroke modifiers, curve modifiers, sorry, in the stroke palette like this. Okay, so it's going to be fatter in the middle, skinny at the ends. And even if I just click on the existing one that I just did, I get this kind of a nice thing going on. Okay. And if you do a bunch of these and start just kind of popping them around, and I'm just clicking with the Option or Alt key here to kind of get rid of that line so it doesn't connect up with it, and then do another one like this. Maybe change my draw size here, make something bigger on the next set that I do. You can kind of get some nice, almost hair looking, kind of a stylized hair feel for this. And again, if I smooth these as I go, I kind of think can look pretty cool. Then I can lift them off the surface, of course, and do that sort of thing as well. So I'm just going to clear these guys out, okay, like that. Option, click on that to kind of set them, like so. And then I'm going to look at my polyframe here, and I want to just get rid of this background thing. I'm going to delete hidden on that, modify topology, delete hidden. Okay, and what I wanted to show you is that you can modify these guys after the fact by creasing them. I click crease here, and if you watch the edges, what it's going to do is put a little bevel on that edge. Maybe I'll divide these ones first. I'll just leave it. So crease like this, kind of see that tiny little bevel, and then you can use the bevel function under crease as well to create more of an angular sort of a shape. Okay, and if I undo that and change that, I can knock that down to something smaller like this, so it gives you almost like a flat kind of a look like that, which can be kind of nice. It's almost like a plate. It has a nice look to it. If I turn this off and then just divide these guys like this, so I'm getting this nice kind of a, a hair looking feel, kind of like, again, a stylized, more of a toon kind of a hair shape, that kind of thing. And as I divide it, as you see, the these braids start to look better and better too. Okay, as they go. All right. So yeah, just wanted to give you a heads up on some of these things that we haven't had a chance to talk about or didn't talk about in depth, to give you a little bit idea of how people do some of those crazy things you see on ZBrush Central with chains and braids and things flowing over bodies and stuff like that. It's these curve brushes. They're super powerful. So if you get a handle on those, you've got a lot more tools in your arsenal. Okay? So give them a try. There we go. Fini.